A young CEO once admitted something shocking. Though he had built $1 million company, he was empty inside. He said, "The scariest day of my life was not when I lost money. Mm-mm. It was when I lost the presence of those who believed in me."
Because real strength doesn't come from success or wealth. It comes from presence. Lose that, and everything else feels hollow.
And that's exactly where Israel stood in Exodus 33. They had the land ahead, the promise of milk and honey, but without God's presence, it meant nothing.
Hi there, it's Q3E12, and today we explore the topic, "Please show me your glory." Again, I will be skipping our usual key highlights for today. Please kindly drop in the comment section below what ministered to you the most. Let's get into it. Last week, we witnessed the chilling consequences of failed leadership. Over 3,000 lives lost in a single day. And as if that were not enough, the chapter closed with an invincible enemy, the plague, sweeping through the camp because they traded the living God for a lifeless calf.
A nation bruised, a people stripped of their glory, and now as the dust settles, their future hangs by a thread.
So, where does that leave them? After such devastation, what could possibly come next?
That is exactly where today's story begins. Exodus 33 to 34, a chapter where heaven speaks and the people must face a terrifying possibility that God Himself may no longer walk among them. Let's begin with Exodus 33.
Exodus 33 opens with a chilling announcement. God tells Moses, "Go on, move toward the land I promised, but this time I won't go with you."
So, where does that leave them? After such devastation, what could possibly come next?
Because they are a stiff-necked people. God warns, "If I travel among you, I might destroy you along the way." Imagine hearing that from the very one who brought you out of Egypt. When the people realized what this meant, their hearts shattered. They stripped off their jewelry, mourning in repentance. Exodus 33, 4-6.
The question now echoes through the camp. Will they ever again know the nearness of God?
Though the Lord was still with them, He physically separated Himself from their midst to show His displeasure. The tent of meeting was now pitched outside the camp, some distance away. Anyone who longed to inquire of the Lord had to walk out, past the boundaries of the camp, to that distant tent, a painful reminder of His displeasure.
So everyone could see the distance between them and God?
Kind of. And yet, for Moses, the experience was different, unforgettable. Whenever he entered the tent, the pillar of cloud will descend, guarding the entrance. And in that sacred space, the Lord spoke with Moses as a man speaks with a friend. And while Moses returned to the camp, his young aide Joshua never left the tent, almost as if he could not bear to step away from God's shadow.
You look deep in thought, Casey. What's stirring in your mind?
I've been turning something over in my mind. Two things, actually.
Go on, Casey. What's puzzling you?
First, verse 7 of Exodus 33 talks about the tent of meeting. I'm kind of confused. Is this tent of meeting the same as the tabernacle God had asked Moses to raise donations for? Or are they different?
That's a sharp question. And your second?
The text says Moses spoke with God face to face. But was it really a literal face-to-face encounter? Or is there more to it?
Good questions, Casey. Let's begin with the first question. The short answer is no. They are not the same. They are separate structures separated by timestamps. Between Exodus 33 and 40, there are two separate structures where God met with his people. First is a tent of meeting referred to in Exodus 33. It was a temporary arrangement pending the construction of the tabernacle, aka the earthly sanctuary. It was set up outside of Israel's camp, and everyone who sought the Lord will go out to the tent of meeting to meet the Lord.
But later came the tabernacle, also known as the earthly sanctuary, crafted from God's own blueprint. Every detail of its design, its furnishings, and its rituals pointed forward to Christ, the ultimate solution for sin, and his proffered solution to the sin problem. It was pitched among the people. The latter structure succeeded the former, while the former was discontinued at the inauguration of the latter, introducing with it a whole new chapter of worship.
To your second question, we will have to look at two passages to help us unravel this. The first is Exodus 33 from verse 12 to 23, and the second, Deuteronomy 5 verse 4. Let's get into the first. From the Red Sea to Sinai took about 3 months, as you find in Exodus 19 1 to 2. And when they got to Sinai, they camped for about a year there with lots of history shaping events. God spoke to their hearing openly for the first time there in Exodus 20. The people, in response, pledged their allegiance to God. The covenant was ratified there. The golden calf rebellion happened there. And Moses, he climbed the mountain about 7 times total. 3 of those journeys, he tarried in God's presence for 40 days and 40 nights.
7 climbs, 7 encounters with the divine, and each time Moses came back carrying more than just words. He carried the weight of heaven's presence.
In Exodus 33 12 to 23, we are giving a glimpse into some of the conversations between God and Moses while he tarried in God's presence. In the previous verses, the Lord had said he will delegate his angel to lead his people home, but he will no longer go with them because they are stiff necked. So, in an intercessory tone, Moses made 3 major petitions. First, in verse 12 to 14, he goes, "You have said, I know you by name, and you have found favor in me. If you are pleased with me, teach me your ways, so that I may know you and continue to find favor with you. Remember that this nation is your people."
So Moses wasn't just worried about reaching Canaan. He was desperate for God himself.
Exactly. Beyond the promised land, he longed for God's presence, for without him, even milk and honey would taste empty. He was indirectly asking God, "Will you also separate yourself from me?" Beyond the things around God, Moses was more interested in the presence of God. How do you say no to that? In response, God replied, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest."
Now, after God had consented to his first request to go with him, Moses took it a step further, this time focusing on the people of God. He goes, "If your presence does not go with us, do not send us from here. How will anybody know that you are pleased with me or with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me or your people from all other people in the face of the earth? Exodus 33:15 to 16. Again, the Lord said to Moses, I will do the very thing you have asked, because I am pleased with you and I know you by name.
Then comes the third request. Moses goes, Now show me your glory, Lord. The Lord said, I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim my name, the Lord, in your presence. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. But, he said, you cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live.
Continuing from verse 21, it reads, Then the Lord said, There is a place near me where you may stand on a rock. When my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft in the rock and cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will remove my hand and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen. Point is, verse 20 reiterates, You cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live. And verse 23 puts it this way, But my face must not be seen. Put together, it makes it crystal clear that the reference to the expression face to face in this context was not a literal eye to eye. Therefore, there has to be another interpretation in congruence with this text.
That takes us to our second text. In Deuteronomy 5:4, Moses was admonishing the people, and he made a reference to Exodus 20, when God spoke to their hearing the Ten Commandments. And this is how he captures the moment. The Lord spoke to you face to face at the mountain from the midst of the fire.
But wait, they didn't actually see his face. They only heard his voice. And even that terrified them.
That is correct. God descended on Sinai, his voice roaring like fire through the mountain as he reeled out the Ten Commandments. No man saw his face. Yet Moses described it as face to face, implying that the reference to the face-to-face encounters with Moses in the tent of meeting, and probably the leadership team seeing God on Sinai, would be better understood from the context of proximity, not eye to eye. Point is, the expression face-to-face does not necessarily mean that Moses had an eye-to-eye with God, Exodus 33:20, but that they were very dear friends and engaged in close proximity, physically.
Oh boy, that was a long answer. I hope that addressed your question, Casey.
Yes, it was long. But I understand now.
Good. Now, having answered your questions, let's now address some key highlights and takeaways. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's get started. We'll take turns. I'll start. 1. In Exodus 33, from verse 1 to 6, we learn a very important principle. Sin separates us from God. Our God is a holy God. His presence cannot tolerate or co-inhabit with sin. It obliterates it instead, and anyone holding on to it. So sometimes when we intentionally continue in sin, he separates himself from us, not because he stopped loving us, but so we are not consumed in his wrath.
2. In Exodus 33:7-11, we see a beautiful relationship between a man and God. From the stuttering, quick-tempered guy that murdered an Egyptian in Egypt, the timid fugitive trembling at the burning bush with every excuse in the book not to answer the call, Now to the one who God interacts with face to face like a friend, and the one the whole nation now looked up to.
How did this happen?
It wasn't always like this, but he grew. This is how far God is willing to transform our experiences, if only we, like Moses, will daily tarry in his presence. This experience is not exclusive to Moses. There are levels of grace that are available, but only accessible to those who yearn for it and are willing to walk intimately with God daily.
Number 3. One of Moses' petition was, "Show me now your way, O Lord, that I may know you." Exodus 33, verse 13. This was not just a cry for head knowledge, it was a deep yearning for an experiential knowledge of God. If honest, this is one prayer that God does not ignore. The Lord willingly granted Moses' wish. It's a beautiful thing to attend Bible studies, know about God, to understand the intricacies of all theological analysis. But if we stop there, we miss the point. The real deal is in knowing Him. Question is, do you?
In verses 16, Moses again intercedes on behalf of the people, and the Lord relents in his anger and reinstates his presence in their midst. In his words, "I will do the very thing you have asked," Exodus 33:17. A reaffirmation, the Lord makes room for intercession. The Lord actually pays attention when we speak. So, a brother misbehaving? Is a sister undermining you behind your back? Or, are our religious leaders not living up to expectations? Grumbling and running your mouth behind their backs do not help. What does it intercede with God for them? Now you know exactly what to do. Let's get to work.
Now, picking up from Moses' last petition in his quest for more intimacy with God, Moses prays, "Show me your glory." Exodus 33, verse 18.
What does that really mean? The glory of God? The brilliance of His presence? The blinding light of heaven?
How about we find out together? First of all, God did not have to answer this request, but He did anyway. Because Moses asked, God opened a door that otherwise would have stayed shut. This is a perfect example of the principle that there are certain things, experiences, and privileges we may never have except we ask in prayers. Now, in verse 20, God specifically said, "You cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live." So, technically, we can infer that the answer to his request should have been no. But God made an exception just to accommodate Moses' request.
He told Moses, "I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you." Exodus 33:19. Meaning, there has to be a relationship between God's glory that Moses asked for and God's goodness that God was offering. Later, in Exodus 34:6-7, when God executes on this in response to Moses' request, He revealed His character to Moses on Sinai. Compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. The list goes on. His glory wasn't just blinding light, it was His nature unveiled.
So, putting it together, God's glory correlates with his goodness, which is a summary of his character.
So every time we reflect His compassion, His grace, His patience, His faithfulness, we reveal His glory. Moses walked with God, so God revealed more of himself to him. If we do likewise, we are guaranteed same experience. In conclusion, while it's inspiring to see Moses walk in such intimacy with God, it wasn't always that way. From his call in Midian to his hesitant return to Egypt, Moses was still in training, still growing. Yet God was already using him. He didn't have it all together, and neither do our leaders today. The lesson? Our leaders are works in progress. Let's build them up with prayer and support, not tear them down.
And that's a wrap for this week's episode. Next week, the journey continues in episode 13, our last episode for this series, titled The Tabernacle. Until then, stay humble, stay teachable, and as always, I remain your Sabasco Doodle, doodling out. Still making it make sense one study at a time.
But hold on, before you click away.
If today's message stirred even a whisper in your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Smash that like, drop a comment, share this with someone who needs a faith boost. And hey, if you haven't yet made that life-changing decision to follow Christ, the invitation is still open. Don't wait. The clock is ticking, and grace is calling. Remember, we weren't born just to survive and pay bills. We're still auditioning to reign in heaven. No retreat, no surrender.